Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars. Crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre, empty out the reservoir. Yeah, I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place.
Hello, I'm still not tired of that song, so I hope not too many of you are either. Welcome to today's episode or interview. Not really sure what the format is yet, still figuring things out, but we have Johnny Krutches from the Steel Toe Show. Johnny, how are you, sir?
I am doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
How have you been? I like the chair.
Yeah, the chair, this was something my brother found at like a swap meet, and then like I ended up taking care of it when he was in like overseas, and then he was like, I don't want that thing anymore, get rid of it. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I just gutted it and turned it into this.
It looks comfortable, yeah, and
it
quite
is
good for
comfy.
audio.
It's comfy. It's great for audio because it's just a fiberglass shell surrounded with audio foam.
Yeah.
So it does not hear anything outside of it. But
Nice.
But yeah, it's as for being comfy, it's okay for like sitting here and talking and having fun. But doing like computer work and stuff like that, that's why when we redid the studio, I put this thing on the pedestal it's on rollers, and now it just rolls in and out when I need it.
Sounds like a good plan. And the flag behind you, I think I've mentioned that in your chat before. That's solid wood.
That is a solid wooden flag. I got that working for my buddy Jonah, runs a company called Combats Creations. They do a lot of different kinds of shows. A lot of it's comedy based. They do a lot of stuff, a lot of work with veterans. He's a veteran. And so one of the things they did, they had me come out for a comedy show. And when I came out to that comedy show, it was a raffle and all this other stuff. And I told him not to pay me. I told him just, as a donation to the cause, whatever, just take the money to the proceeds. And they said, oh no, we can't do that, we got to pay you. So I said, okay. At the end of the show, when they gave me my money, I just put that same amount back into the raffle, and I ended up winning the flag.
That's awesome. It looks great.
It's amazing. I love it,
man. So I've encountered you. I encountered you first on the Steel Toe Show. I guess most people probably do, or there, or at one of your.
Yeah, there's no shame in saying that the Steel Toe Show is where most of any little notoriety I have comes from. Yeah.
Well, you're great when I see you on there. By the way, but yeah, typically it's either most of the time it's April that I see, sometimes Corey, but if it's not those two, it's you and Aaron, and yeah, it's usually a good time. Always a good time. I'll say that. So how did you get started, or how did you get started with Steel Toe?
There's a fun story. So I have a multiple sclerosis. I was hospitalized because of mental issues and stuff. When I came out of the hospital, they put me in a partial program. That partial program, the lady in it introduced me to a person who used to be on the Steel Toe Show named Adrian Washington. And so Adrian Washington had me come out to one of his comedy shows as well as the Steel Toe Show. And that's where I met Aaron like face to face. And then I performed a 5-minute set. Everybody thought I was really funny. And we talked a little bit. I've had like television production and radio broadcast training and stuff. But the radio broadcast more vague than the whatever. So he was like, oh, okay, cool. And we kind of kept talking. And I was in this group that existed at the time around a guy named Max Weirs. And so Aaron and Max Weirs had their own thing, and it was going on between Max Weirs' open mic group and Aaron's radio show. And I was an open micer in Max's group, and they didn't realize I kind of met Aaron and knew him. And so I was always talking with Aaron, trying to get always like, hey, if you ever need help, man. And then one day somebody I think couldn't make it in or something, so he had me come in and do an interview about all of the stuff I had been through. And then it became a thing where it's like, oh, if we have someone who's sick, we'll just have Johnny come fill in. He's a local guy who can pop in, and he doesn't have anything going on. And then it just became more and more. A guy by the name of Whiskey Pete, wasn't able to keep doing the show for a while because he's a professional audio mixer and DJ and stuff. He works with like big band tours and things. So he was busy and he was like, hey, I got to go do all this stuff. And I kind of stepped in for him. And over the course of 6 months, they were like, hey, dude, Johnny's crushing it so much, we're just going to keep him on. And it just grew from there.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Well, how long ago was that about that you?
Um, let's see, it was around October or November of 2018 when I started showing up like on the Steel Toe show. I think it was like 2018 or the beginning of 2019 when I was like on the air for the first time. And then yeah, it just kind of started happening more and more from there.
That's awesome. So, and you have a podcast of your own, a show that you do?
Yeah, I do the Just Kidding or I do the Game Over podcast. It's on Just Kidding LLC on pretty much Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, all those. And it's pretty much it's like the Steel Toe show. It started out I used to do like I like to humble brag that I was streaming before Aaron and Corey and everybody else. But you'd have to look up my old video gamer like streaming stuff, and I did a bunch of like video game reviews and everything, and I put all that together and did all that through my old Xbox when the Xbox One first came out.
Oh
Like I
wow.
had a day one edition one, and I literally like I was that asshat that was like sitting at home like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna build a channel on YouTube, and I'm editing videos and I'm getting hoarse from like redoing my audio over and over again, and I'm recording it with my gamer headset and stuff. So it's just this whole hodgepodge thing. But I was doing that like way back. This is 6, 7, 8 years ago, I think, when I started doing that stuff. And so when we all like moved over to this and I started doing these shows, I was like, I'm gonna bring that back. I'm gonna play video games and interact with the audience and do some news and event stuff and have fun. Well, nobody really gave a crap about the video game stuff. The audience really enjoyed the interaction and the topical discussion stuff. So we do that, and then we focused more and more on the interaction. And now my show has devolved into me kind of reading news stories while we have fart jokes. So it's just
But the fart jokes are great though.
fart jokes are great. And now I'm trying to come up with ways to create vaguely because like I use these apps that their apps have, TOSs and people want, but I have some kind of funny sound clips. It's like if I put a picture to that fits, it's like how is that gonna fly? So now I gotta start getting creative. I think the last new sticker I added was Buddy Christ because I just love that image. But I've
Yeah.
got a couple others I'm working on right now that I'm like, I got to do this right because it has to pass censors, but I want people to know what that is.
That's awesome. So, di outside of radio podcasting, do you have any hobbies?
Oh yeah, I'm an avid gamer. I like honestly, I have like a gaming addiction. I have been picking up games like crazy. That's why I told my friend I can't play games on computer anymore. Like I use my computer for work, and I'm focusing on that because my panel that's got all my programs, it's just more and more games. I added 3 the other day, just because they were games that I used to play back in the day, and they were on sale on Steam. And I was like, "Oh, dude, all 3 of these for $5? You're kidding me?" Oh, bam! And I'm like, "Oh, I don't even have time to play these. Why did I do that?"
Yeah, it's
But
those specials they put them on, and it just seems so enticing. You have to get them though. You can't pass.
yeah, I can't turn them away. Like the one that really hooked me, and the one that I'm playing right now that I have a lot of fun with is Marvel's Midnight Suns. Just because like it's all the fun of like a Marvel movie. It's a serious like world-ending apocalypse, but you're playing like this game managing relationships the whole time between superheroes, and you're having fun with all that crazy shit. But all it took for me was like, your favorite character is one of the DLC characters he just released. It's 40% off. What do you think? And I'm like, yep, sign me up. There we go.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. It's
I'm
the
that
the, the,
that
the
steady, dude.
special characters get me every time. I'll get all the DLCs for it. Um, Marvel's Midnight Suns, you said was the name of
Yeah,
that one?
Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Marvel's, yeah.
It's just a fun game where you're it's a weird turn-based strategy game thing, but it overall most of it is like I said, you're managing like friendships between your character and all the other superheroes. So if you have like a big nerd out for any of those characters, it's just kind of fun to hang out with them.
You ever played games like Rust or Daisy, stuff like that?
Yeah, Rust and Daisy, I've played a couple of those. I'm usually not as good at those kind of games. I enjoy multiplayer games and things like that, but I usually lately now in my age, I've enjoyed more the narrative. So it's like I have a story. I want to play through a story, experience a story. So that's
Yeah.
usually where I get sucked in now.
Huh?
No, I have a couple people. I did a stream or two when we started doing shows, but I think I did Daisy. I don't
Oh,
think I've
really?
done Rust.
Are they still up?
Daisy, or those
Oh,
streams?
the
I
streams.
don't think so. Probably not because like
Oh,
Twitch, because those were all on Twitch and Twitch cycles. So
got it.
that was before the YouTube stuff. I might have some recordings around and things I can look for, but yeah, no, those the game stream stuff, like I said, I didn't keep doing just because overall the audience, like it's harder for the audience to go between the two, and there wasn't really a big gaming audience, and the audience I had kind of had a thing they wanted. So like I said, it kind of morphed. So it's still called the Game Over Podcast, but there's like almost no gaming anymore.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Evolution. So here's a. Let's see. The questions aren't really in order, so we're just going to go with
Go
this and
for it,
see how
man.
it
You do
goes.
you.
Personal or professional? What's the hardest challenge you've had to overcome in life?
I'd say the hardest challenge I've had to overcome in life is learning to get past my personal like medical illness stuff to do comedy and things like that. Because I don't have a problem going on stage. I don't have a problem talking and doing all that fun stuff. But there was a long time, and that's part of the reason I got so depressed before and stuff, where I literally told myself that just because of my condition that no, you can't do that. Like for whatever reason, nobody imposed that rule on me. I did. It was a thing I did for the longest time. And having to like literally overcome that and go, no, I can do this and I'm going to until someone tells me I can't. And that's kind of like that was kind of a pivotal turning moment. And I really had to it took a while to get there and I got really, really low in the beginning, of course. But it once it happened and then, there's always new hurdles you have to go over. But once you really start kind of embracing that and pushing through it, it kind of, I don't know, it becomes motivational.
Yeah, it's hard to get started with that sometimes for me, or a lot of times. Hell, just finding that initial motivation to get going.
Mm.
And you just got to force yourself into it. But I know what you mean with that. What's something that you will always just forever be proud of, and why? Something that you've either done or created or been a part of.
I'm trying to think.
Take your time. They can wait. I will wait.
There's a couple of things, but I mean,
I'll take more than one.
alrighty. Well, one of them that
We're here to learn about Johnny today.
one of the big ones that I'm really really enjoying is my daughter that I'm very very proud of. It's just her. She's getting older now. She's gonna be turning 5 soon, and her personality is coming out more and more. She loves to sing and perform in a lot of ways. I had mics that I got rid of because I upgraded my DJ setup a while back, and I just had these things sitting out collecting dust in the garage. So I gave them to her because I'm like, here you go, you got your own wireless mics now, sweetie. And it was the greatest and also worst thing you could ever do because like I gave them to her and she was so happy, but then she's chasing everyone down in the house all day and she's like, here, microphone, here, we're gonna sing. And then people were like, oh, that's great. Like her mom would look at me like, that's awesome, and she'd look at me like, you really love your daughter. And I'm just like, oh, it's nice. And she's got my sense of timing even since she was a little kid. She's got my sense of timing, her mom's sense of crass, which that is a dangerous combo when she gets older. But yeah, it's just I don't know what she's gonna be when she gets older, but I'm just so proud of just the little bundle of just personality that she has blooming, and it's I don't know. I can't see myself being unhappy with that lady. So it's nice.
Yeah.
That's one. I mean, but that's like a cheap answer because I'm a dad.
Now, well, I mean that's got to be number one, but it's obvious that's your number one.
I mean, I don't know if it has to be number one, but other than that, I would say what else would I consider really proud? Probably this is probably gonna sound really gay. My car. Like I have a Ford Flex, a 2017 Ford Flex. It's nothing special, but I've always had pieces of shit my entire life. And then I lost my license. So then I got my license back. But when I got my license back, I had no credit. My life was all in a mess. And so the first car I got was, okay, but still kind of a POS. So this is the first time I've had a really like sweet ride that I love, that everything about it's awesome. Like I can't understand how people don't love my car. Other people that have had to drive it and stuff like, oh, I can't stand driving your car. I'm like, I have no idea what you mean. It's the greatest thing on the planet.
Yeah,
So just getting
those
that
are
for me.
Those are pretty spacious too, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Ford
It's kind of like honestly, if you put sliding doors on it and and you could turn it into a minivan. But but for the most part, it doesn't look like a minivan, but it has minivan capabilities. It's all-wheel drive. So my masculinity stays intact, and it can haul all my DJ gear.
Those are all-wheel drive?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Actually didn't know that. Okay. Yep. Daughter vehicle. I get it. Yeah. I drive a truck. It's a Silverado, but God, I love it. I love it. It's taken years to get up to owning this one, and yeah, it's a great source of pride. And vehicle makes sense too.
Good for you, man.
No daughter or child here in my life, but for me, I'd say it's my dogs. You know, they.
There you go. I have a cat I rescued, a feral rescue. So there's 4 in this house, 2 that I'm technically responsible for. But yeah, one that I actually rescued as like a little 3-week-old kitten way back in the day. So
that's awesome. Yeah, we've got one named Frankenstein. He was a rescue. He's a little shithead and likes to piss on my chair in my office. But
I'm sorry.
He's okay. He's lucky. He's cute. So
Alucard's a biter. So, but again, we named him Alucard. But yeah, no, he's a feral rescue. He still maintains like the feralness of it. Like if he doesn't like you or whatever, he'll be very vocal towards you. He'll leave before he's not aggressive, but he's defensive. So like he'll leave, but if you like go near him and he doesn't want you to be near him, he'll eventually like, put his teeth on you or whatever. But the funniest part, sorry, I'm pulling this up so you can get an extra view. I realized I'd being a dick. But yeah, it's funny that what we named him Alucard because he became so bitey and shit. He's the only one like of the cats where like you can pet him and he's like, I like you, and he just flips and it's like, oh, we.
But does he latch on or does he actually bite down? He just kind of
he mostly puts his teeth on you. Like if he likes you, he'll give you what we call love bites, where he literally just puts his teeth on you, and it's barely even pressure of teeth on skin.
Yeah.
But like for example, my daughter's chased him down before when he was running away from her, and we're like, hey, stay away from Al. He doesn't want to play with you. And she's, she wasn't learning. So we were chasing her down, like, hey, don't leave the cat alone. And she got to him and he put his teeth on her. He bit down, but he didn't like break skin. And the shock of it was enough to scare her. But he literally went like, I will mess you up. And then he turned around and he left again. So we're like, see, leave him alone. But he has his claws and stuff, and he could use them if he wants. But like I said, so he's this feral, aggressive cat. But at the same rate, the minute we brought him indoors and he learned about living indoors and more importantly, the delicious and awesomeness of wet food, he also simultaneously became the most prissy fucking cat you've ever met. So now he's like, bitch, I will fuck you up. Don't you mess with my fur.
He's like, where's this place been all my life? Why have I not been here sooner?
So yeah, he acts very regal and he keeps himself incredibly tidy, almost like a butler. But like I said, he also has, again, this wild feral cat side that he flips out on people. So he's awesome. My own little mistake that I made, and I'll have him forever.
My cats would be, I think, dead if they went outside. They've never seen the outside, so I'm gonna keep them indoors.
I have 2 that very much want to go outside just to murder things, but yeah, no, none of ours go outside. I have one cat that literally jumped into our sliding door because she saw a bird on the deck, and she knows the door's there, she knows the glass is there, she's got her paws up against it, right? She's watching, she starts going like this, she starts doing that thing where I don't know what like they're trying to talk or they click and they
that chatter kind of thing,
and then all of a sudden we couldn't understand. She just like started swirling her butt and jumped straight at the window. Just boom. And she actually looked like, it was the one that was in my lap earlier, Integra. She actually kind of looked like Garfield for a second on the window stickers. Like, and then she just kind of flopped down. And then it's like, awesome. All of a sudden reality struck and she's like, wait a minute. I knew that was there. Why did I do that? And she just walked away.
That's great. So what so you do comedy, you do stand up, right?
I did comedy yesterday.
How was it? How did it go?
It was really weird. It was fun. I was at the Euphoric Ink and Art Show here in St. Cloud. They're doing a tattoo show. I'm actually, that was one reason I was trying to get my printer fixed so I could print out some ideas for some tattoos. I might go get some more ink. But yeah, so they have music and they have like beer tasting later in the day and stuff. But they have these tattoo booths up for all these different artists and various products there. They had my buddy Jonah had him bring in comedians. So they had 3 yesterday, they have 3 today, and each comedian does 2 sets. They're spaced out throughout the afternoon. And so it's just something if you're waiting for someone who's getting tattoos, or if you just got a tattoo and you're kind of sitting there enjoying it before you head out or whatever, there's tables you can sit at. And it's a weird way to do a comedy show because it's an expo. So everyone's moving around the booths and they're looking at the stuff they're looking at. Then there's tattoo artists giving tattoos. There's people watching those tattoos. There's tattoo artists being judged for their work and everything else. So that's all going on. And then you're on a stage talking at the people in front of you and everyone around you because you're on the PA. You're like, I'm going to entertain this entire group of people, even though like I think 80% of them aren't paying attention. It feels like I get off stage on both of those sets and I felt like the biggest piece of shit. And I was like, oh my God, why am I a comedian? Who would pay for this? And like, so then people are like, you're so funny. We were laughing. So one tattoo artist is like, man, I had to back up for a minute because you had me going. Where I'm like, nope, I got to hold on a second. And the lady's like, yeah, we would have been done 10 minutes earlier if it wasn't for you. And I'm like, wow, that's really like reaffirming. But I didn't see any of that. So or hear that. So for me, I'm like, oh, crickets, I suck. Like it was the most awkward thing ever. The audience could pick up on how awkward it was. And then I felt even worse because there was a fan of my show. I've been promoting it. And she came out and she's like, oh, her and her boyfriend came out. We're like, hey, man, we watched you on the Steel Toe Show. We watch you on your show on Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. So we're like, hey, man, this is awesome. Great to see you. We've never seen you perform comedy. And I'm like, oh, this is the absolute most dog shit way. Because even if you thought I was funny, and I mean, I'm pretty good, but even if you thought my jokes were hilarious, the energy I'm putting out is so anxious and just because I've got nothing to work with, and I can hear an entire convention of people talking and working and mingling amongst themselves. So it just feels like you're at an open mic where like it's at a bar and all the patrons of the bar are there because they're regular patrons of the bar and nobody's there for the open mic and nobody gives a shit. So they're like, I'm just going to order my sandwich and I'm going to talk to Dave about the weather. And you're in the back and in other news, if you can believe this, hey guys, have you heard this? And it's just like, oh, none of you give a shit. I could literally just be like, and F this people. Nobody would notice. I could drop an N-bomb and people be like, huh, where's the pepper? Like, it just fucking...
So I don't know how you could do that. So that would terrify me. Going on stage doing comedy. I mean, hell, I don't even do YouTube really. I feel like because I'm a corn, so I'm the least amount of putting myself out there. So how do you deal with if you're up there on the stage and you feel like things aren't going the way you had hoped they would? How do you keep from just like locking up and just plowing through everything you had planned to go through and not even giving them a chance to respond and just fucking... it'd be a train wreck if I got up there.
There were a couple of times last night on my second set where I just kind of stalled out and here's the thing. I can't say here's the thing without hearing someone's voice now. But with comedy and stuff, especially, I don't know about other people. I believe this for other people, but I can't truly speak for other people. Time seems way different. Like minutes seem or seconds seem like minutes on stage when you're silent for even a second. And I record my stuff and I go back and I watch it all the time. And it's very hard to do. It takes getting used to, but it's really great for realizing that distillation of time where I'm like, oh, this pause was so bad. Oh, I hate this pause. And then you go back and watch, you're like, oh, wait, that really wasn't that bad. I mean, it was a pause, but like, so you can kind of realize it with that. But for me, the weirdest thing with it was I started at a young age wanting to do comedy, seeing it on like Johnny Carson and stuff as a kid. And when I was like, I think as little as 5, I was like, really wanted to do that kind of style of entertainment and stuff. And then I discovered Saturday Night Live when I was really little. And I was like, oh my God, sketch comedy. Holy shit. And so I always kind of wanted to do something crazy like that. But my first actual encounter with public speaking, spoiler alert, I'm a horrible white trash, poor country kid. And so I went and did a debate for the local school thing because there was cash prizes involved. But I didn't do any of the homework or any of the work or research. So I went up and I completely winged a 5 or 10 minute speech about dogs. And I just used everything I knew about my collie and I made $25. And from there on out, I was like, holy crap, just going in front of a bunch of people and pulling it out of my ass seems very, very profitable. And so I wanted to do it even more from that point. And my first like experience doing comedy, I didn't do open mics or any of that stuff. I was working as a chef, and my brother worked for the local TV station, which in Rochester was KTTC TV. And every year I don't know if they still do, but every year they used to do this thing called the Eagles Cancer Telethon. And I decided, well, I'm going to enter this as a comedian. And so when I entered it as a comedian, they told me, one, they're like, we've never had comedians enter. The closest we get to a comedian is a magician whose tricks don't work. And I was like, well, at least now the laughs will be intentional. And so I made them laugh with a 15, 20-minute set or whatever. They loved me. They're like, we're going to have you on. It's going to be great. I was like, okay, cool. And leading up to it, like this is 3 or 4 months leading up to it, they're like, hey, you're going to do 30 minutes. We're going to break it into 2 15-minute sets. And I've never performed before other than Desire. So I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, great, this is awesome. Then as we get to the night, like the way these kind of live shows work, they start shuffling shit out because of time. Well, they put me towards the end of the night because I'm a comedian. They didn't want me in like in the kids' time stuff. So they put me towards the end of the night. They started shrinking my time more and more. So my 2 15-minute sets get down to each 2 5-minute sets. And I've never performed before. So I don't have the intelligence or the wherewithal to like completely cannibalize and redo my sets. There's no real way to do audience interaction, and I'm inexperienced to do that anyway. So I get on stage, I do okay, but because of my second set, because of again nerves and everything else, I ended up just kind of quoting a Jerry Seinfeld joke. And it's a great joke, and it's not like I did a bad version of it or anything. And it's not cool that I did it looking back. I'm pretty sure that's why God gave me MS. But but
shit.
but the like honestly, the best part about it is, and the reason why I tell this story now is because it didn't even occur to me until like I think a week or two after it happened. I was on an Eagles Cancer Telethon where I told a joke about death, and I'm like, if you're a person, it's been revealed that the number one fear among people is public speaking. What I'm doing now, the number 2 fear is death. Number 2, which means if you're at a funeral, you'd rather be the guy in the casket than the one giving the eulogy. And I did that joke, and it was great. I didn't do it that way. That's Jerry Seinfeld joke. I did a spin of it and everything, but it's a Jerry Seinfeld joke. I did that joke on that cancer telethon as just like a bailout, and the room was silent. And I got done and I left, and I thought like, oh, the room was silent because it was late at night or whatever. It took me, like I said, a couple days to realize, maybe not a good idea to talk about death at a cancer telethon.
Well, this is some of the things you learn on the way up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. After that, I started doing I did like it used to be called Knuckleheads in the Mall of America. It's not there anymore. But and some other things, and then MS happened, and I took a break. But it was that was just so I had some very like jump in the fire, like shit your pants, dive in and swim moments. That kind of like broke me in sense, not that I had a huge problem with it, but even if I did, like the whole like, oh, how can you just go up there and just kind of do that stuff? And as you do it more and more, you get like a repertoire of things that you can fall back on and lean back on. Like I said, that first performance, I had never performed before. I didn't have a lot of material. I hadn't been doing open mics, so I leaned on the stuff I'd been like listening to and looked to as inspiration and mentors and stuff. And so like I'm thinking of Jerry Seinfeld and what at the time it would have been Jerry Seinfeld, Bill Cosby, Bill Hicks. There's just a bunch of different people that I was into at that time. I was a big Andrew Dice Clay fan back in high school and stuff. So it just George Carlin. So I just like when I freeze up, I just like would divert to what I know works. But back then, what I knew works was other people's shit. It was bad. It's something you would never and should never do. And I'm a horrible person. But
well, if I was in the room, it would have gotten a laugh out of me.
So
Guaranteed.
yeah.
So in comedy, who would you say has been your greatest mentor?
I'd say like because obviously I haven't met them. Actually, I'll talk about this for a bit. Before I found out stuff, and I'm not going to go too into the weeds about like dirt and personal stuff, but before I found out stuff, I would have actually said Adrian Washington because of all that. Like him getting me in front of Aaron and convincing me to get up on stage and do comedy. F your MS, just go do it. Like that was super helpful to me, and it really changed a lot of my life. And no matter what, like I will always be grateful to him for that. Things with our relationship changed after that. So but in terms of like someone I really kind of like as a mentor and idol, it's really a tight race between, I'd say, George Carlin and then Bill Burr. And the reason why it's a little tight between the two of them is I can't help but slowly sink into being Bill Burr. Like it's something I have to actually fight. I can't watch a lot of Bill Burr, otherwise I just start talking like Bill Burr. What am I, some guy? What do I know? And it's like people are like, "What is that? A Bill Burr impersonation?" Like, no, what do I know? I'm just, it's something I fall into all the time. I have to avoid Bill Burr, but I enjoy Bill Burr. I think he's very, very funny, and yeah, but I think my biggest one has to be Carlin, just for was it Back in New York or whatever it was that he did in the late '90s. Just all the stuff he did with the 7 words you can't say on TV, and yeah, just
Yeah,
a amazing list of comedy specials that I love of his.
I think yeah, Carlin, awesome. Burr, definitely. One of the first albums, comedy, I think it was an actual record that I remember in life was a George Carlin one. I think it was, I can't remember. It was it a Back to School or something? But
I think there's one called Back in Town. Is that?
Back in Town. But God, I loved it. Played that thing to death. That, and for some reason, there was a Richard Pryor one that I found like kind of stuck underneath a cabinet, but it was, yeah, I love them.
Fun fact about Richard Pryor, and I didn't even know this till a little while ago. He has MS or had MS.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's why he stopped doing stuff in the late '90s, because he passed away sometime, I think around like 2011 or something like that. Maybe even later than that. But I thought he had died long before that, because I'm like, you'd think Richard Pryor, why wasn't he still doing movies and shit and everything else? Is, oh no, he suffered from multiple sclerosis. And I was like, holy crap.
I'll be damned. I didn't know that. Yeah, died in 2005.
Yeah, 2005, not 15.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Huh.
Again,
Yeah,
multiple
did not know that.
sclerosis. Never knew.
Um, in your opinion, what distinguishes great entertainment from mediocre entertainment?
I think entertainment's really kind of more of like a eye of the beholder thing. I mean, because anybody can find something funny, and if you want to be an entertainer, you can always find someone who's willing to do something if it'll attract an audience. Case in point.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, mediocre entertainment is something where it's like you don't really do anything or you don't really care about it. Like I hate to kind of just pick out a thing, but like the IRL streaming where it's like, hey, look, I just want people to pay attention to my life. I'm going to live it, and I don't care about these people, and I'm not interested in these people, but I want these people to pay attention to me. That's where I'm feeling like that's more garbage, mediocre entertainment kind of thing. I feel like anytime, even if it's not for you, if someone puts a lot of effort into it, if they're really trying, if they've got the like, again, not everything's for everyone, but if someone's really putting their all into it, I can be like, well, that's quality entertainment, not for me, but that's quality entertainment.
Yeah.
But again, like leading to the whole anyone can find something funny thing. When I was at that tattoo convention yesterday, there was this old guy that loved my set and stuff, and he came up and talked to me, and one of the other comedians was performing and things, and he had a lot of really bad, really boomery one-liners, but he thought they were hilarious. So he's like, oh, you guys doing that comedy, that's pretty great. I could never do anything like that. But they kept coming over to me to drop these one-liners, and every time he does, he doesn't even wait for my response. Just yeah, and he looks at me like, that's funny, isn't it? And I'm just like, no. And I'll give you an example. I went outside to have we'll say cigarette, and I'm smoking my cigarette, and the guy comes outside to also have a cigarette, and he looks at me and he's like, saw 2 guys in there and I was going to make a gay joke, but fuck it. Hey, and I'm just like, cool, dude. Cool, good for you. Holy shit, I shook the whole desk. But yeah, I'm like, oh god, good for you. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, yep, you thought that was funny. Like, it's not worth it for me to confront him on how stupid or bad that joke is. No, none of us are gonna change our opinion or our lives. So I just gotta kind of sit there and, like someone who farted in an elevator, I just gotta hope that the next floor is mine and I can leave. Like, that's all we're looking for.
Have you ever made a point to fart in an elevator before
Uh,
leaving?
no. The fun fact to me, I actually have a joke about it. I have difficulty controlling my all my muscles simultaneously because of my MS. So if I'm standing or walking and I have any flatulence, like it's in the hands of the gods at that point. It's coming out when it wants to, kind of thing. And if it's really bad, I'm sorry. Like I've had them happen where I'm like, oh, this isn't for public consumption. Oh no.
But what can you do but laugh at it? I mean,
Yeah.
enjoy it. Um, that's awesome. Yeah. Um, how do you balance the demands of your career with your personal life?
I'm very, very fortunate with the situation of my personal life being very flexible because I'm working on getting off of like handicap and disability assistances and stuff, but that's where I started. So as opposed to most comedians who have to have a day job and everything like that, I kind of had help in that regard. And with my condition, I'm not capable of being like a full-time parent for my daughter. So even though I have like, shared custody with my daughter, she's really more taken care of by her mom and I kind of hang out with her when I'm available sort of thing. And we hang out on the weekends and after my shows and that kind of stuff, but I'm not like expected to do all that. So I get weird because my condition is shitty as it is. I've got these weird passes that make it easy to do like, oh, I'm going to go out tonight and like last night, I'm going to go out and do a comedy show. The biggest problem with yesterday was that they kept changing the times on the schedule on me, so I end up having to cancel my internet show because I'm like, I got too much stuff to do to get ready to go out for this, and now I got to go do this and that. So I'm like, I can't do my show today. So that sucked. But aside from that, and being like having a really weird schedule, no, it's strangely easy because of the situation. But again, I would rather not have the situation, but at least there's upsides. Let's put it that way.
Right. I've just always wondered how people uh, balance it all with, I mean, social media. I mean, being in the public eye, I guess, um, people think you're
Well,
always
excuse me. Like I said earlier, I was kind of a a white trash country kid. So like I was I was like if we're gonna use a South Park reference, I was like my family was Kenny's family.
soda sopa.
Yeah, we had Pop Tarts for dinner, but but yeah, it
Lucky.
was. Excuse me, but yeah, so it was very weird with that situation, like kind of going through that. But that's where even with going to the Steel Toe show, I had mentioned the whole Max Weirs thing earlier. When it became clear I was working with the Steel Toe show and I was going forward with that, people like Max kept telling me in Facebook messages and stuff, oh, Aaron's just using you. Oh, they're just going to make fun of you and make you the butt of their jokes. And as soon as you stop letting them laugh at you, they're going to kick you to the curb and this, that, and the other. And like, oh, they're going to make fun of you for every little thing. And I'm like, dude, do you not realize I've been getting picked on my whole life? Like, I've been a target my whole life. And then the one moment where I was like, my life was in my own hands and I can really shape it, that all ended very abruptly with the MS. And now, like, literally, I am a slow moving broad target. Who cares? So, for doing all of that, the only problem I have with the social stuff, and I've had to do a lot to lock down on it because I used to be a lot more like, I'll share all my pictures on Facebook, whatever, is my daughter. Like, I don't want her involved in any of my stuff. I don't want anything I do to come back on her. I don't want people like I'm terrified of going through the stuff that some other people I know have gone through with swatting and all the other shit, just because I don't want any of that crap to just affect her. Like that's all. I don't want any of this to come back on her. I don't want her to have to deal with it. The whole
Absolutely.
idea of this is that's the whole reason I do this is to support her, like to provide for her, because I can't go get like a job, I can't go to like a 2-year college and become a plumber. I can't do that, but I can and will freaking quote unquote dance for shekels on the internet, and then She
Well,
has a food, roof, and plenty of money for Bluey.
as someone on the internet, I'll speak for the rest of us. We're glad you're dancing for those shekels on the internet.
Well, thank you.
Um, what goals are you pursuing right now?
Um, Goals that I'm pursuing. I would say the big one that I'm pursuing right now is I've decided I really want to focus on the internet channel and growing the internet show stuff because I love doing the comedy, but unfortunately my shit's boring, so I don't like going on about this, but I'm just not doing well physically. Like parts are, having difficulty. I'm seeing doctors, I'm taking steps. Boo hoo for me. Yeah, pity party. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm gonna focus on what I can do. And like I mentioned earlier, sketch comedy was a big thing for me, and that's been the goal to eventually be doing sketch comedy stuff. So knock on glass desk. Hopefully in mid to late April here, I'm going to actually I've been talking to people, and I'm gonna hopefully actually start doing some filming and some. It's gonna be low
Awesome.
budget. It's gonna be it's gonna be painful to look at first, but
I
it's
can't
gonna,
wait.
we're gonna be starting small, and I've been accruing contacts and connections. I've been saving up money for stuff. So we're gonna be upgrading the studio to have guests on the Sunday show, and I'm gonna promote the shows, and the sketch comedy stuff will come out on the shows. So I've already got a couple of skits that I've gotten, like the premises. I've got a phone list where I just every time I come up with one, I just write it down on the phone. And like I said earlier, I'm hooking up a printer. I've got a printer and a whole shitload of paper. So next, I'm writing scripts, and that's where we're at there. I'm writing scripts and putting together storyboards, and I'm already looking at venues that I'm going to be using for filming. Like I said, I have a crappy little handy cam. It's very much like dad's home porn video style kind of camera right now, but at any rate, like, which is why it's difficult. Some of the people I want to ask are women that I worked with at the strip club, but I've got to be like, look, I got to make sure I've got like a professional location and everything set up first, because I got to be like, look, no, this is a real thing. I'm not asking you to show up in a basement for a guy and his camera. No, that's not what we're doing. So
It's
yeah.
totally legit. Trust me.
I mean, they kind of trust me. They know me, but at the same rate, like if you're one of those ladies, you're probably smart enough to never just go to a random secondary location. And I'm sure I'm not the first guy to be like, I've got a camera and some money. And no.
Just want to borrow you for a little bit. Yes. Um, what do you think about? Let's see. What do you think is the most important role of entertainment in society, and how do you think it can be used to affect positive change?
I think the biggest role of entertainment in society is to provoke people's critical thinking. Um,
Oh,
like you should be entertained, you should laugh, you should cry, whatever. But ultimately, you should look at whatever made you feel the way you did, and kind of ask whatever questions you need to ask yourself. Like a lot of people will get upset when they see something that they find offensive, but they won't ask themselves, why am I upset? Is this okay? Or whatever.
yeah.
Like they'll jump to things really, really quickly without thinking about the context, and they'll just go, you said this word. Is like, yes, but in this context, like, yeah, but we're not going to pay attention to that. Like, no, this is where critical thinking comes in, and realizing that there's a difference between words and actions, and some words can be said in jest and they are not offensive, or like quoting an n-word in a rap song isn't necessarily being derogatory or being hateful. But if you do it the wrong way, or you do it in front of the wrong people or at the wrong time, it can have serious negative consequences, even though it didn't mean anything. And we all know that. We all know that person doesn't hate people of color. We just know that they love, Biggie and Tupac, and they let it rip. Like, so oh,
That's right. It happens. Um, do you believe the entertainment industry has a responsibility to promote social and political issues, or should it remain neutral?
I think the entertainment industry has a responsibility to kind of promote. Like, I feel like, because for me, the entertainment industry goes kind of hand in hand with freedom of speech. I realize they're not the same thing. I'm not that stupid, but but for me, I feel like entertainment should be able to, whether you're posing it as a thought experiment or as something you think is visually or mentally stimulating. I feel like you should be able to provide whatever kind of entertainment you want. And it's kind of like the capitalism system. It's like the audience will decide what works. Like I was talking about with the podcast thing. I love playing video games. I'll play video games in front of people all day long. But the audience decided I'm not good at that. So I went, we'll do what they like. And then so you gotta, if you want to be a successful entertainer, you gotta shape it a little bit to your audience. But you also have to still be original. You have to have something about it that's you. You can't just shell out whatever you can't just be an echo chamber. So it's a weird line you have to walk. But I feel like if you're being a quality entertainer, you're not afraid to push social issues, social agendas, but you also have to not be afraid to call out social issues and social agendas.
I would agree. Yeah, still working on follow-up questions, but yeah, I agree. Top 3 favorite foods.
Oh, this is all right. So number 1 has to be ravioli. I'm a huge ravioli fan.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just because I grew up poor and that's apparently more of like a middle class food. I didn't have a lot of experience with it as a kid.
So we're
But
talking like Chef Boyardee
no, I mean like real
specifically?
ravioli.
Okay,
Like
okay, really, yeah.
Chef Boyardee, like I've had like I grew up on like everything we grew up on was generic, so it's like, Family Farms Boyardee or whatever. But yeah, no, like not that generic process. No, I mean like the easiest way you can do it now if you don't make it fresh yourself or get it like that way is you can
Yeah.
usually get it like frozen and you boil it for 30 minutes and then you well, not 30 minutes. Takes 30 minutes to make. You bring water to a boil, you throw it in, it's about 5-6 minutes, it starts floating, whatever, you add some sauce. But yeah, no, I really, really love ravioli for some reason. I'm a child, so
It's a great
ravioli
food.
it's just fun.
It's
It's
like a little
nice
tiny meat sandwich with
and
sauce.
and then you get to like, you can always like refrigerate it. You can eat it cold after you've cooked it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Ravioli's the big one. I like steak, but that's I don't know if that's really a food.
ketchup on your steaks.
Well, no, I like doing like steaks with marinades or dry rubs and things like that. I'll use
Oh, yeah.
A1 sauce if I really need to. But yeah, as a chef, I used to cook a lot of steak and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed steak was a big one. I guess the third one is pizza, just because who doesn't love pizza?
Pizzas.
I feel like
Excellent.
if there isn't a pizza you like, there's something wrong with you. I'm not saying you should like every pizza, but everyone should have a pizza.
There's got to be one. If they can't come up with one, then I don't trust them personally. But um, what habits do you have to take care of your mental health?
Right now, a lot of it is medical professionals. Medication, like I see a therapist every week. I have to keep like it's not like like if I don't check in, they're gonna send the cops after me, but it's like a thing where we see weekly, and if I don't make an appointment or something like that, phone calls start going out, people start kind of looking for me. But other than that, it's I take my medications. I do a lot of time. Like that's one reason I take a lot of downtime to de-stress and stuff. And I spend a lot of that now with my daughter. She loves building puzzles. She's up to 100-piece puzzles, and I can't believe it. She's solving them in under an hour.
Oh
Like
wow!
she's never built this thing before. I'm just like, Jesus, dude, this would take me a while. God, I've got one. I've got one that I never finished, right? And I kind of want her to build it, but I can't. I don't know if I can because it's to a CSI game. So you build the puzzle and then you solve the murder. So it's a whole bunch of crime scene photos of a dead lady, and there's like bloody towels and a knife. And I'm like, I really want her to build this puzzle because I've been dying to figure out who done it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, will that scar a 5-year-old if she puts together a literal murder scene?
Probably not, but who can
I don't know.
say? You know.
I don't know if I want that therapy, Bill.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think kids are better at puzzles and things nowadays than when I was a kid, or maybe I was just a complete piece of shit at puzzles, but
Possibly.
I
I
was
know I
no good at
definitely
them.
am. I've tried and tried again. I'm horrible with jigsaw puzzles. I'm okay with different kinds of like puzzles and things, but um like Rubik's Cube style stuff, but like jigsaw puzzles, eh. But my daughter's got some sort of crazy weird pattern recognition thing where she's like, nope, she just picks the pieces out. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome. Yeah, that is amazing. I wish I could do that, but um, how do you handle criticism from audiences or I don't or critics, but and what steps do you take to address it?
Um, I actually really, really like criticism, especially from people I trust, because I'm always like, hey man, if you're not trying to improve, then what are you doing? So
Right.
so I kind of like criticism for that regard. As for like audience members, if we're talking like hecklers or anything like that, every comedian deals with those. I I don't know. I don't mind people criticizing me. I get I get a lot of harsh criticism from people who already don't like me. So it's like if you already don't like me, it's easier for me to take your criticism because I'm not expecting praise. You know, if you want to, if you're someone who I know doesn't like me and you really want to catch me off guard, you just gotta be like, man, that last set you did was amazing. That was hilarious. I loved it. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like now I'm like, what are you up to?
Throw you
What is
off the
going on?
rest of the
Yeah.
day.
But meanwhile, if I know you don't like me, I'm like, man, this is stupid. That joke sucks. You're a horrible piece of crap. I don't know why anyone thinks you're funny. Then I'm like, that is your opinion. And then just be like that's par for the course. Like, so it's really not so much about whether or not it's criticism as whether or not it's criticism I expect. And I I also like I hate to say this, I get a pass from a lot of people, or at least I feel I do, because of my condition and shit, where people are automatically gonna tell me you're funny and whatever. I get a lot of, oh my god, it's so brave for you to go up and do that. I couldn't do that, and especially in your like, it's like they're very nice about it, but at the same rate, it's like that's kind of a dirtbag thing to say. But overall, it's like with criticism, I think a lot of people hold off, and then I just don't read internet criticism. I like if you don't criticize me to my face, the odds that it actually reaches me are very small. So,
Yeah, the comment section and Reddit and all that I've heard can be not so friendly of a place on the internet. So I try to avoid it for the most part myself. But um, how has a failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
well, as for a failure that set me up for a later success, I guess I could say this last Saturday's one was in a way I felt like a failure, you know, like both of those sets I was very unhappy with. Both of those sets I was like this was bad, that had the wrong energy. I had the wrong energy. It threw me off and like I've watched the first one and I know I have the second one on camera, but I honestly like I have trouble being able to watch them because I'm like I know how awkward it was. I know how it felt. So it's like, and I know there's nothing in it that I'm gonna want to use that video for in sharing terms. So I'm just like, oh, it was a thing. It was a thing. And so, but I made a lot of connections with a lot of people. I ran into people I knew. So I might start working with a local radio company. A little bit, and like I said, I might have a new advertiser to promote on my shows that I do. So it was a really really weird thing where um, that felt like a failure. Those sets hurt for me to do. I felt like they weren't funny. I literally apologized to people when I got off stage. I was like, "I'm sorry. That is not a good representation of me as a comic. I am so sorry." And they're like, "What? That was funny." No, and everybody's telling me how funny it was. And I'm like, "Yeah, it did not feel that way up there at all." But that whole event led to, like I said, I've got two new possible gigs that I'll be working on. So sweet stuff.
That's awesome. Would people close to you say
FM
that
radio
you're
gigs.
hard on yourself?
People would say I'm hard on myself. I'm told a lot I'm hard on myself. But here's my thing. I think legit, this is a thing I do both in my comedy, but it's also a personal belief. I think a lot of people are too easy on handicapped people. And I'm saying that as someone who realized that by being hard on myself, I actually accomplished more. Um, Being easy on myself was what led me to being like, well, I can't work. I have MS. I better sit at home all day. And then, oh, I have MS. I guess I can't do this. Like, I guess I can't do that. Like being hard on myself and saying, no, why can't you do this? Get up and do it. Like, um, my buddy Jonah, thing he'll say a lot, talk about it or be about it. Like, So it's just one of those things where I've learned that being harder on yourself has more rewards and pays off more on the long run than being easy on yourself. Like one thing they taught me in outpatient all the time is they're like, you've got to learn to give yourself grace and you've got to learn to be understanding and give yourself, space to make mistakes or do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. But you can't let that become a crutch. Like, for example, with me with walking, a lot of people be like, why don't you use your walker more? Why don't you get a wheelchair or whatever? And I'm like I finally broke down and started using the motorized carts at the store and stuff because people are like, dude, you're gonna hurt yourself. You got to do it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll give you that. But people be like, why do you always push yourself to walk? I'm like, because if I don't, like I didn't at first. And because of that, I lost my walking more. I wore a leg brace because I had trouble walking, and people are like, you need to wear the leg brace for your safety. It's like, that's great. But I actually lost more walking than I gained because my leg learned to rely on the brace. So now I've learned to push myself and just address and realize when you need the brace or you need the walker or whatever. But you have to be willing to push yourself without those constraints, or you're never going to overcome them.
Definitely. Yeah, I still terrible at the follow-up questions, but
That's all good,
no,
man.
that's great. Yeah, if you get complacent with where you're at, you won't grow, you won't improve. I'm shitty at interviews. That's why I'm doing them to try and hopefully one day get less shitty at them. And yeah, it's yeah, you can't just stop doing something because it's tough, I guess. So
Well,
I
the
don't-
interview things, man. One thing that helps with that, like I said, is you just you start discovering a rapport of just like when you do it all the time, you start having like a second nature to as someone talks, you realize, oh, this is a good question that'll come up with that, and you'll have just kind of a feeling of where to go. It's a sense you'll develop, man. And like I said, with your other interviews, you've been great. It's good. You got a lot of
I appreciate
potential, my friend. Don't worry about yourself. Just relax and there's plenty. Here's a good piece of advice for anyone. Be critical of yourself, but be critical at the right times. Like like people be like, why are you always so hard on yourself? And I'll be like, well, because someone's gotta be, but you gotta be hard on yourself at the
Right.
right times. You can't be hard on yourself when you're really, really down and there's nothing you can do about this situation. But when, you gotta get something done, whether it's difficult for you to do or not, you gotta be hard on yourself to get that done. But then after that, you got to give yourself some grace. So like for me, like an example, I those sets that sucked yesterday, I had to do them. I had to get through them, and I have to be critical of them, but I couldn't be critical of them in the moment. I have to be critical of them after. I maybe got too critical of them right away, and I should have been more critical of them say now as opposed to walking off the stage. It's still something I deal with. But yeah, it just
What do you hope for your legacy to be, and how do you hope to be remembered?
honestly, like pipe dream if it all goes well, the sketch comedy show thing. I've got a couple of skits that I'm really, really excited to do. Some of them are just funny and silly. I've got one that's kind of a social commentary thing that I think is truly hilarious, and everyone I've told about it thinks the premise and everything is hilarious. And so I'm very, very excited to do it, but I need like an ensemble of people to make it happen. And so I'm like I said, I'm trying to start get that ball rolling here in mid to late April. And sorry about that. That was my medication alarm if you heard that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm hoping to get that going and stuff like that. And that's really the thing I want. I'd love something, especially if it's visual, to be able for my daughter to always have. I mean, I'm not I'm not saying anything's gonna happen anytime soon, but I'm not like disillusioned to the fact that my medical condition could take a turn at any time. So I definitely kind of feel like under the gun to have something left over no matter what. I'll settle for a comedy album. I'm trying to work on getting that going, but I'd really, really love the sketch comedy thing to get going and take off this summer. That would be awesome.
That's gonna be amazing. When will we hear more about that?
The sketch comedy thing.
Yeah.
Well, as I'm already mentioning it on air, I've been talking to people off air. I'm literally putting together schedules to start filming stuff. I'm going to start printing scripts. So probably, like I said, mid to late April when we start like kind of filming things and stuff, I'll be coming out with more things online. Like we got it coming, and then like I said, mid to late April when it starts actually releasing, I'll be a lot more information coming forward. Right now, I'm literally putting together lists of people and putting together scripts so I know who's going to be where and what scripts we've got able to do. And then I have to start shopping locations. So I've got a couple in mind for 2 sketches. And then if I can figure out a green screen setup, the sky's the limit.
Dude, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see more about that. Last question, and Johnny, I appreciate your time here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is so awesome.
Last question: what would you do if you could be invisible for a day?
Oh, dear Lord. This may sound really, really stupid, but if I could be invisible a day, I'm sneaking into Area 51 with a camera. That's what I'm doing.
The camera's not going to be invisible, though.
Shit.
So it's just you would just have.
All right, so
people have to trust
this
you.
is where you can't pose a question to someone who may or may not be a comic book nerd. Does the camera stay invisible if I put it in my body? Let's say I get like a pen cam and I shove it up my ass. Now, will they see me like duck walking the pen cam in, or will the pen cam be invisible whilst between my cheeks? Because if that's the way it works,
I'll give you that one. You can smuggle in a Polaroid camera between your cheeks. That's the only kind, though.
All right, it's gonna be. You know what? I'll take that loss for the American people and the world as a whole to get truth on these answers with the goddamn aliens.
Man, you are an American hero. Thank you. Johnny, do you have any plugs?
I do my show on Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. You can usually just look up Just Kidding LLC to find it on any of those platforms. Tomorrow will be the actual real debut of the Sunday Smoke Show, which is Rumble exclusive. That's from 2 to 3:30 CST. It doesn't have a definitive time, but it's planned hour and a half of hanging out. That's going to be people calling in and able to use Discord as well. So we'll be able to get all that working tomorrow. And yeah, I'm on that and then the Steel Toe Show every Monday and Tuesday on Steel Toe's YouTube channel and Rumble. So
That's awesome.
thank you very much.
Johnny, thank you for being here. Thanks for everyone that watched, and I will see you all later. I waved. You can't tell because I'm corn, but bye.